Hey everyone, welcome to this video, and today is going to be a part 2 video. I released a video called Amazon PPC for 20 variations, and the person, so I released this video to answer someone's question. Somebody left a comment on my YouTube video to ask me that question, and I created this video to answer it. And that same person had a few other questions, so I wanted to follow up. So wanted to create a part 2. For those that don't know me, I'm Sean Smith from PPCAMSaccelerator.com. And before we dive in, if you could, please click the like button for me. Really helps my my videos get visibility on YouTube. All right. So and Gary have a couple of questions here. So this one might be a little, I don't know if it'll be a little longer, but it is a long question here. Thanks a lot for your detailed explanation of my question. I'm going to implement what you have suggested for manual campaigns, and will also be running product targeting as you suggested. So in the last video, I made a couple of suggestions on how he should run manual campaigns and that he should be using product targeting for launches. As you have suggested, 2 more questions based on what would you agree. All right. I'm going to remove all keywords in the negative exact field for my broad and phrase match campaigns that are part of my exact match campaigns. And I'm going to run these campaigns for 1 week. May I know at what point should I increase the bids for keywords, as in is after each keyword crosses an impressions threshold without any sales or click for that keyword? Also, do you recommend any specific number of keywords per campaign, as in do you feel 20 keywords per campaign is too much or is okay? Okay, so all right, cool. So we got that. I'm planning to run auto campaigns as well. So you know what? I'm just going to dive over it here. I've copied. So these questions right here from and from Gary, I have copied and pasted them here so that I can take notes as I read them and kind of like flesh it out, I guess you could say. All right. I'm planning to run auto campaigns as well. Let's go through the first one. So number 1 here. Let me change this. All right, I'm going to make this a little smaller. That way I can kind of hide it. And then, all right, so number 1, I would say, what point should you increase bids? I would say generally it's best to increase bids. You know, what I would do is look at the suggested bid, right? Look at the suggested bid for your keywords and find out where you're at in that range, because you get 3 suggested bids. You get a low, a mid, and a high. And those will kind of be some traffic indicators, you know, outside of search volume, of course. But you would want to just make sure that your bid is competitive with where you want to be in the algorithm or the ad auction. So if you want to get the most traffic, you want to be higher than the high end of the suggested bid. Now that does mean you'll pay more per click, but you're going to get more traffic. So the trade-off is that the benefit is you get more traffic. That's the advantage. The disadvantage is that you pay more per click, right? To whereas if you do a lower cost per click, you'll get less traffic. So, you know, I would look at the suggested bids and make sure. What we always try to do is make sure we're above, like 20-25% above the middle suggested bid. That usually gives us good traffic. But you have to make sure that now when it comes to traffic, you have to make sure you're, not ranked, but you're indexed for that specific keyword. So you're going to want to see whether or not you're indexed for those keywords as well. So I would use a tool that checks, like an index checker tool. I think Helium 10 has one. I'm sure there are others on the market. But you want to make sure your listing is indexed for the keywords that you're bidding on so that you will be considered relevant in the ad auction. In terms of increasing bids, I don't have like a specific threshold because every product is so different, right? I work with products that have super high volume, like search volume. I work with products that have low search volume. So, you know, what I like to do is I like to use a target spend. So I would say I like to, you know, like, hey, I want to spend $20 per day on this specific product for this launch. So my goal is to spend that money, right, and see how it performs. So I use spend personally. I like to use spend and make sure I hit my spend targets. Because if I spend more, I'm most likely getting more traffic and keywords or more traffic to my keywords. So I like to use spend thresholds and work with that and then adjust accordingly. Like if it has a really good ACOS and is performing well, I might try to increase that spend during the launch phase to get more conversions so I can get more reviews. If it's not doing so well, that's when you evaluate whether or not it's a good product or not in general. So that's kind of how I approach, traffic for keywords during launches. And I think you mentioned that this is a launch. I don't know, but I would figure out like how much you want to spend per day based on your sales and go from there. And or just increase and decrease. Like just look at, for that specific product in Campaign Manager, how many clicks and impressions you have. If it's small or a lot, like go in, increase the bids, maybe bid on some more keywords and test that out. But that's what I do. I do it more at the product level. I don't, because sometimes you'll get more impressions and keywords from one keyword and sometimes you'll get them from a bunch. I just kind of like to hit those target numbers that I'm looking for. Do you recommend any specific number of keywords per campaign? This one it's one of those things where it's like, I personally don't recommend any, but there's arguments for and against this specific methodology. I think that you can do it if you organize keywords by search volume. I think that would be the best way to do it, because if you just throw in 20 keywords, you just have a list and segment them and throw them in. I mean, you could end up in a situation where you have 20 high volume keywords, and you most likely won't, but like let's say 5 out of 20 are super high volume and they eat up all the traffic, right? Or all 20 of them are super low volume and they get no traffic. So, what I like to do is I like to launch campaigns using a specific methodology, put all the keywords in there, and then after a week or so, I'll see, you could even do 4 days, 3 or 4 days, but after a week, what I'll do is I'll see, hey, which keywords are not getting impressions and clicks? Let's take those keywords from those campaigns and launch new campaigns to give them their own budget and their own traffic. I'll do that in 2 phases when I launch campaigns, like 4 to 7 days phase 1, and then wait 4 to 7 days again to pull from those new campaigns to see if you can pull it out. And I feel like after 2 phases you would be good to go. I don't think it's too much. I think if you have those 20 keywords in there and you only find a few keywords are getting traffic and it's running out of budget, then take the rest of those keywords and roll them out into their own campaign and see how they perform. But do not touch the original keywords or original campaign. Just leave those in there. Don't even pause the keywords that you take out. Just leave it as is. All right. Another one. I'm planning to run auto campaigns as well, so wanted to ask you if you suggest running the auto campaigns with any specific strategy in mind with respect to setting specific bids for close, loose, substitutes, and complements. My experience in the past with auto campaigns is that they are literally cash burners in my search term reports. As in, my search term reports show up completely unrelated ASINs with high CPCs. Best strategy. Personally, honestly, man, I really don't run auto campaigns that much. Maybe if you launch a product and it's doing very, very well, then the auto campaign will do well, right? That's another buddy of mine runs an agency, and he says that works really well. If you launch a product and you only use the keyword targeting and the product targeting and it's doing well, then an auto campaign actually does pretty well as well. But the thing about auto campaigns is they're so wide and they can be cash burners, man. So for your specific situation, I probably wouldn't even run an auto campaign because you already have so many SKUs that, like, man, if you run auto campaigns for all those SKUs, it's going to be like, you might waste a lot of money, man. So personally, I probably wouldn't run auto campaigns in this situation unless you see that your manual campaigns are performing well. That's what I would do in that situation there. And then just be really, conservative with your bids, maybe, like the mid suggested or maybe 20% below that, but be really conservative with the auto campaigns because you're right. We see that they burn cash as well. And then Jerry, let me go back. Jerry Lobrigo asks, so that was and then Jerry. Thanks for a very informative video. I have a question. With products having multiple variations, do you favor running ads for individual SKU or all SKUs in one campaign, then segregate performing SKUs into campaigns later? This is a really good question. And this is something I had to kind of be flexible with, long story short, I was really stuck on, one campaign per SKU. But, when I work, like I have a brand where literally I can, I think it was this year, last year, we launched like a new brand and it was like 20 products, right? It was like we had like 3 different products, like actual products. And then within those products, we had like 10 variations or something like that. So what I did was I created at the campaign level, I put, the brand name and I put the product name in my campaign name, like those products. And the ad groups is where I segmented it out. So each ad group was a different SKU, because if I did each individual variation as a SKU, man, I would have wasted so much money. So like the best way to do it, if you have multiple variations, if you're launching, is, one, if it's a lot and you don't know which one's going to perform best and you want to test all of them, then create one campaign and each ad group is an individual SKU. That way you can limit the budget, right? You can limit the budget, and within that campaign, you're going to see which ones get the traffic, and you can kind of compare them side by side. I think that's a really, really good approach if you have a ton of variations. Creating that campaign, and then within that campaign, each ad group is the individual SKU. All right, guys, I hope that answered your question, and Gary. Thank you guys so much for asking those questions. If you guys have any questions, just pop them in the comments, and I'll most likely make a video to answer those. And then if you haven't, please click the like button, and I will talk to you guys later.